So, it's finally come to this, huh? We are down to the wire, deciding which watch to get. The FINOW X1 or the FINOW X5. This is the video to help you decide. There's no real easy answer. There's just opinion and desire and what really suits your fancy. They're really, really similar, but they are different. So let's break it down and take a look. Depending on where I put it, one can look bigger than the other. Interesting. In reality, if I have them side by side, you should be able to see that the X5 on the left with the 3 buttons is a little bit larger than the X1. However, not a whole lot. The displays look similar, but yet they're different. I'm getting too many reflections. But you can see the sharpness, crispness is there in both. This is the stock first watch face that comes up on both of them. All right, let's jump in, take a look at these. First of all, the X1, which is this one, is a really nice watch. They're both really nice watches. On the back, you see we have the heart rate monitor. We have the connector ports for the dock. The dock looks like this. It's a magnetic dock. It's got good sized edges to it, and it snaps in place magnetically, latching on with the button right in that little hole right there. You plug it in to charge. That's all there is to it. All right. That's on the X1. On the X5, a little bit different. We have 3 buttons. We have a connector that's a little thinner. No, they're not interchangeable. You can't use one on the other. When you look at the back, you have the heart rate monitor and the connectors. The speakers up here. We're going to get into that in a minute. And similarly, this simply connects onto the back like so. It's not as strong a magnet, but it holds on pretty well. And the connectors are on the same side as the buttons on this one. Okay? That's on the X5. There's a lot of things they share in common. For example, the bands. It's a leather band. Now, I use this one a lot. And you can see there's a little fold kind of starting, but no tears, where my arm fits nicely into that particular position. The bands are not removable. Not here, not on the other companies' similar type watches. All of these standalone Android watches have antennas, 4 of them, and they're in these bands. So you're not going to take the straps, the bands off and replace them with other ones. Not now, not ever. A couple of people have tried it. It's been really, really difficult. Okay? And they're pretty much the same across the board on both of the watches. Looks like the same material, the same size. Are they the same size? Yeah, I think so. You think so? Looks like the same opening, yeah. So they're pretty much the same band, and they have the same antennas in each of the straps. And they're not removable. Well, what's it like on? Let's pop one of them on. How easy is that? Pretty easy. Slide it in. Tighten it up. Get it in a hole. And we got it. All right. So that's what the smaller one, the X1, looks like. Now I'm a guy, and I got a fairly good size arm. I would say that on a female arm that's a little bit smaller or even a lot smaller, this is going to look like a pretty big watch. So take that into consideration. Let's see how the heart rate works on this one. Come on, baby. it's measuring. That little dot you see there is an app that I've installed. If you're watching other videos on my channel, you know I got lots of little bells and whistles on these things. That one is one, it's a floating button, and it lets you launch into different apps. You'll notice on these watches, as they take the pulse, it's going to start out high and then kind of get lower. Now, two things about that. First of all, when it tracks your pulse in some of the different watch faces, it's always the first reading, not the average, which is unfortunate. The other thing is, short of magic, there's no way to get the pulse rate that you're seeing out of the watch and into a fitness app. It doesn't do that. Somebody's working on a way to do that, to extract that with a separate app, but it's not really to market yet. So my suggestion is, if you're going to use this pulse rate thing, you just let it go for a while and you see where it tends to normalize. It was about 85-ish. It stopped there. I'm talking and moving and excited, so I'm in the 80s right now. But it's typically around, what do you say, about 85. And it's just going to keep going until I stop it, I guess. You know, I don't know what you do with your blood pressure or your heart rate reading. You know, I don't know that this is accurate enough to be meaningful. Usually, in a fitness app, what you're going to want to do is take that reading over time. You know, it's more like your recovery rate. You take your pulse just after, at the end of your exercising, and then you go about checking it every few minutes or so to see how quickly it recovers to your standard pulse rate. That's kind of what you use it for. Other than that, I'm sorry, on these watches, it's pretty much a gimmick, especially if you can't be interfaced with anything else. Well, that's the X1, FINOW X1. How about back to the FINOW X5? We're going to put that on, but before I do, I just want to make mention that if you've seen in my other videos, I have a very unique X5 in that the middle button is removable, all right? It kind of is by accident, but right now it's by design. I actually like it better without the button, but it can float in here or it can come out. And it may fall out as I'm moving it around to try to put it on. I don't want you to gasp and go, oh no, it's a broken watch. Not really. I've never heard of anybody else having that problem, if you call it a problem or issue. So it's not a design thing. It's just, you know, fumble fingers here, managed to get the thing to come out. And I like it that way, so I'm not working hard to get it back in again. There we go. Hey, how's that for a watch now? Okay, see how it's bigger? Quite a bit bigger, it looks like. That's the X5. Fits nicely. Its band is working, and this is the one I use. I use this all the time. I like the bigger face because it's easier with my fingers and my eyes. So where are we? We're doing pulse rate, heart rate, and we're just going to compare the two. Click the icon to measure, if I can hit it. They always are shy on camera. You notice that? It's a little bit different of an interface. You can see that the icons behave differently. It's a different firmware version. Now, when we talk about firmware, that's kind of the software that there we go, 90, that the manufacturer overlays onto the operating system. Just like on your phones, we've got the watches with their own firmware. And we're getting kind of consistent. Look at that, 90s, and it's coming down now a little bit. There's your 85-ish or so. So sort of consistent pulse rate. But just like on the X1, the X5, the first reading is what is locked in for your watch faces, and the average is, you just kind of watch it and get a feel for it. If you're using a fitness app, you're probably going to want to enter your measurement that you think is the right one for you separately because it does not interface directly into it. Okay? And that's our pulse rate. Stop. There we go. The steps work the same for both watches. All of the pedometer information, same thing. The music player. We're going to check the audio here in a minute. And then, of course, the clock faces. Where are you? There we go. The clock faces we've seen before. They have stock clock faces that come with them. They're slightly different. Come here. For example, this one here is not on this watch here, but the next one, see, there they are, and so forth. You have a fancy one that's supposed to show the weather, you know, on both of them. I can't really demo the weather for you. For some reason, the server connection doesn't work here where I'm located, so I'm not getting the weather information. But both watches have really beautiful screens. Nice job, huh? All right, I'm going to prep the watches for something else. Okay, we got the same basic structure set up on both of these watches. And I want to show you the image quality a little bit more close up. And to do that, I want to demo a new app that we've been playing with. And that is this one right here. You know, Chronos is about time, and surfing is about what you do on the web. So if you started surfing time, you'd have Chronos Surf, which is this watch face that you're looking right here, if I get the thing in focus. It's a really interesting watch face. Right here on this dial, you can see it's currently pointed towards the alarm time, which you could set. If I touch this button, it goes to world time. I touch that button, and we're back to local time. Okay, it's 11:30. And above the 12, if you look real carefully, you can see the day of the week. It's Friday, and it happens to be the 20th. That was those gears that were turning at the very beginning. So we're doing this to show you on the smaller X1 what the quality looks like. Let's move over to a stopwatch and start the stopwatch up as it's counting in seconds and tenths of a second, and of course minutes and hours. All right, let's leave that puppy alone for a moment. Launch the same thing here on the X5 as we load it up. And again, we've got all those basic same functions. There's the stopwatch, which has actually been running for a while, I guess. Let's reset this. Stop it. Reset it. We could start it, but instead I'm going to take this one here to the countdown timer. And how's that work? Okay, it's counting down at 11:36 a.m., but I want to see it wiggle that little hand there. I'm going to move the hour hand around. Hello, wiggle. All right, we'll wiggle the minute hand now. Let's go to there. And I can even wiggle the second hand, like so. So, I basically have a countdown stopwatch ready to go. And I start it, I presume. Oh, I think it's still doing its thing there. I have to take it out of the mode to countdown and start it. At 9:49 p.m., it is counting down. You see the second hand going backwards. Really a nice chronometer, stopwatch, alarm, world time, local time, and supposedly 100-year calendar built into this thing. You know, it's on the Play Store now, and it has been redesigned just recently to fit perfectly on our watches. So head on over to ChronoSurf, ChronoSurf.com, or hunt for it on the Google Play Store. The free version has ads at the bottom. It pushes the watch face up, but you can get a feel for what it's like and whether you'd like it or not. And for a few bucks, you can purchase it and have it on your watch and support the developer who just has bought himself an X5 to continue developing in this nice watch format. ChronoSurf. All right, there's my ad. It's not really an ad, but you know, hey, when I see something that's cool, I love to share it with you. Okay, so we have the plethora of watch faces on here as well. Oh, by the way, if you swipe down on these, you get the little menu that lets you look at the manual and do all sorts of other things. Or if you swipe up slightly, you can do things like change the colors or make the stopwatch photo, or the watch photorealistic, all these kind of things. And fully customizable. So really a nice little watch face. All right, we are going home, so that we can parade the watch faces. You've seen the stock ones that come with it. We've been dancing through that. And there's more. Lots more. Lots more. Here's the one with the gears that's built into the watch itself. See the little gears turning around. And not a whole lot of difference between the two watches. I could go on and on with the clock faces, but we have other videos on that, so I'm not going to really do that. We want to cover what would cause you to choose one of these over the other one, right? I really don't know. They're really both excellent watches. They have the same number of bytes of RAM and ROM and the same engine that's running it. I'm not getting into all those fancy specs. As far as antennas, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, I've had no trouble whatsoever connecting with my router. I'm getting really high, 20 megabits kind of rates with both watches. The GPS is lame. It doesn't sync up very well with the GPS. I've heard people have had success when they take the watch off. If they get the right band pointed to the sky, it's not really very good for doing GPS type stuff. What I do get a lot of questions about is, how do you use this watch as a phone? Folks, this is not an easy one, and I really apologize for giving convoluted answers and referring you to the XDA forum, but it's not an easy answer. These are not tethering watches. These are standalone watches. It means that when you take them apart from behind, here goes my little button. When you take the screws out, you can get into the back and put a SIM card in each one of these. And with the SIM card, you have the ability to use it as a standalone phone. Okay? That's what they're here for. They don't tether well to your watch. They're not made for to hook up to your watch so you can make and receive phone calls and talk into your watch and hear from your watch the conversation that's going on from your cell phone. It's not really meant for doing that. These are much more sophisticated for all sorts of other things like Android apps. You're not going to get that connectivity. You're just not going to be happy. The tethering is lame. Notifications don't work well. There's a lot of workarounds people are trying with software, but still, it's not the same as just getting one of those cheap watches where you can check and reply to your notices and you can answer your phone calls or maybe even place a phone call through your phone, all right? You can certainly do that through the watch if you have a SIM card installed. So, because I don't, and I can't really place a call to somebody to demonstrate that, get back here. Look at that. Oh, now there's my slider thing for changing the brightness, and my button went away. Oh, you're being finicky. Bigger brother wants more attention. There, 100% brightness. Yes, that's an app that I have installed. It's not classic when you get your device, but because it's Android, you have the ability to add those kind of things and change the brightness. What I am going to do now is launch into Easy Voice Recorder Pro, and I've got this whole thing cranked up 20 dB, which means it's going to really boost the volume. I'm doing that so that I can make a recording for you and let you hear what it sounds like on each one, because that's one area where they're different, is in the speakers. You ready? Mm-hmm. Well, I've got a good recording going on the one on the left. In fact, it's so bright at 20 dB, I have to talk softer or I'm going to completely override the system and it'll be distorted. You can change this, of course, and that would be a good idea. But right now, just for testing, I'm going to leave it like this. And we'll check mark it. Okay, let's go back over here. We'll come back and play with that one separately. And now, let's hit the play button. Well, I've got a good recording going on the one on the left. In fact, it's so bright at 20 dB, I have to talk softer or I'm going to completely override the system and it'll be distorted. You can change this, of course, and that would be a good idea. But right now, just for testing, I'm going to leave it like this. Check. All right, you can see it's right on the edge of distortion. I could just bring that down a little bit and record it, softer by changing the decibel level. And but it's got good bass. Well, I've got bass, so it's got bass. You know, it's not really tinny kind of a sound coming out of it. And the speaker's a pretty good size. Now, here's the problem with both of them, with all of them. It's on your wrist, right? So the speaker is kind of shoved up against your arm. And if you press down on it, you're going to pretty much mask the sound because it just comes out through that little space right there. So as far as a placement for a speaker, all of these, it's pretty crazy that they put it on the back side. But they did, and there it is. However, it's a little bit larger on the X5. So if you're wanting something to listen to on your arm, that's one decision factor that might influence you to get the larger watch, is the speakers a little bit better. Here it is on this one. Now, it funnels straight up, so it's less likely if you press your skin against it that you're completely blocking it off because of how it exits on the surface. This one does that too, but it's a bit bigger. All right. Okay, what I did, and you have to install an app to do this, I went into the app settings search. In the app settings search, I went to accessibility. In accessibility, you have to, you have to scroll down, if it's going to let me, to your magnification gestures. And this is where you want to turn on the zoom with triple tap. All right? You can't do it with your basic settings. You have to do it there. Since we're talking about the smaller watch, where this seems to be an issue with the smaller watches, so we are going to have to do this, it looks like, in order to get to our record button. Try it again. All right. There, I hit the record button. Isn't that a pain in the watch or what? Well, we're now recording just so that I can at least give you a sense of the sound, but sorry for making you sit through all this, but I think it's worthwhile for you to feel the pain of some of the little things you've got to do to make a smaller watch work when a 400 by 400 display, not a much difference, but it's a huge difference actually when it comes to hitting buttons. How the heck are we going to make it stop? I don't know. Let's try. Nope, we're going to need to do the triple tap thing just to turn it off. Done. Okay. Now, the good news about this, come on back. All right, I'm just going to leave it. Going to go to play. I'm going to play this in a second, but the good news is with this Easy Recorder Pro, what do I call it? Yeah. You have widgets, and you can play with the widgets with this thing here, and with the launcher, floating launcher 3, all that kind of stuff. And you can add widgets to just touch record, so you don't have to worry about those buttons as much. But that's a classic example of the differences between the two that sometimes comes into play. So what does it sound like? There, I hit the record button. Isn't that a pain in the watch or what? Well,
sound, but sorry for making you sit through all this, but I think it's worthwhile for you to feel the pain, some of the little things you've got to do to make a smaller watch work. Well, I've got a good recording going on the one on the left. In fact, it's so bright at 20 dB, I have to talk softer, or I'm going to completely override the system and be distorted. Display. You can change this, of course, but that would be a good idea. But right now, just for testing, I'm going to leave it like this.
Okay. I'm fumbling all over the place with these. That's the audio, folks. They're pretty similar. I mean, you could probably get a meter and try to measure the decibel difference, but they're good and loud. They're about the same volume. The speaker layout is different, and you probably would have an okay time handling phone calls with these watches, either one. The true difference comes in the size of the screen and how it handles apps that are not optimized for the round watch face. Any other questions? The bands are not removable. You're not going to be able to make phone calls with it. They're very similar. The X5 is kind of in a class of its own. There's another one called the K18 out there that is similar, but it's got a very ugly bezel with numbers and stuff all around it. It's not polished nice. This comes in silver and black. The X1, there's a lot of watches similar to this. The number one D5 is practically identical. There's a K8 Mini. Then there's the 2-button version, which is the X3 from FINOW, and it's also known as the K9. So there's other versions from other companies. They all run basically the same software. So why would you buy this one over this one? Personal choice. Do you want the larger display? Do you want an easier time tapping things like the keys on the keyboard or buttons that you can barely touch? What's your preference in terms of use? If you're a smaller person, smaller arm, good eyesight, tiny fingers, the X1 is a good choice. The screens, although they're completely different, this is an OLED kind of a screen and this one's not, they're still both very bright. And you get good vision from both of them. They're great in sunlight. They're pretty much identical. So I'm not going to really decide for you, of course, but I do get asked a lot, which one should I buy, the X1 or the X5? The X1, if you can see, the aluminum is brushed a little bit more. This is the X5, it's a little more shiny. 3 buttons, 1 button. Oh, what do the buttons do? Well, you press it and it'll bring you home or turn it off. Okay, can't show you that yet on that one. Because you don't have these other buttons, you have to slide down to come back, whereas with this one, you can just simply press the upper button and come back. The lower button on the X5 is for emergency. When you press that, if you've programmed emergency contacts, you add your contacts, it'll make an emergency phone call. So if you're going to use it with a SIM card, and that's an important feature to you, that's what that button does. The center button, when you press and hold it, brings up this menu that lets you go into silent mode or full volume. It lets you turn on or off the turning your arm to light up the watch kind of a trick. So if your watch is off, he says, without being able to hit the button with his left hand, let's turn the watch off. I have to acknowledge it and allow it. Okay, and now it's off. And when you whip your wrist up, it will turn it on for a few seconds wherever it was and then turn off. That's what that thing does. And trust me, the display on this is identical to that. This is for power savings. All right, and this is your brightness level. Unless you have display brightness in here that overrides it, that little slider that you saw there. When you have the watch on and you slide up from the bottom, he says, There, that's typically what you get. You get a display of the time with a tethering link in case you are trying to tether to a phone for limited connectivity and notifications. Your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi and your current battery level are on this display. I'm not getting that on this display because I have another app in here that when I slide up allows me to launch this thing called Floating Launcher, which is really cool. It's also on here. I just don't have it activated right now. This is a launcher that's floating on top of this. None of this comes with the watch. These are apps you have to install, and you want to watch the videos on productivity for the X5. That will give you insight into how to do all of that stuff. So there you are. The FINOW X5, X1, everything about them. They're not waterproof. You don't want to get them wet. Obviously, with holes for speakers, you're going to get water in there. One thing I noticed, too, is, this is on all of them, the place where the battery connects, you see that? They're exposed little pins. And if you have this on your wrist and you're exercising and you get moist, they're going to start to get tarnished. I don't wear the X1 as much as I do the X5. I don't know if you can see, but on the X5, they're tarnished a little bit. And I have to wipe them down with a towel or washcloth, dry, to try to take any of the stuff off of the surface so I get a good charge. If you exercise a lot, you may want to put a piece of tape on these before you put them on your wrist just to protect them from getting wet. That's true of the number 1 D5, as well as all the FINOW watches. Any of these things that rely on a cradle to charge them is going to have that same issue. Your microphone port is right there on both of them. And what, you want to see inside of them? Make a final decision based on the electronics? All right, I'll take them apart for you. Okay, I have loosened the screws on the backs of both of them. I put my little knob back in, and let's see what we've got. Let's start in with the X5. Take the back off. Carefully. There we go. We have, nice, huh? We have a nice rubber gasket all the way around to help seal everything. There's your SIM card slot for putting in your SIM. There's no memory expansion, of course, on any of these watches. We have a protective metal plate here. That sits over the speaker, so that must be the speaker hole, so that must be the speaker. This looks like it's the battery connector. Sometimes you have to disconnect the battery, if you have a thing frozen or something. It's right up there, easy to get to, easy to see. Here's your charging ports. And look, you have a screw there and a screw there. Everything else seems to be connectors. There's no soldering going on. There's something there and there and there. Those might be antenna connectors. Here's a thing right there. What, you want me to take it off? Oh gosh. If I mess this up, it's all your fault. No, of course not. All right. Heck, I'm into it this far already, right? Let's see what happens. Try to do this on camera. After all, you're trying to decide which one to buy, the X5 or the X1. Okay, those screws are loose. I'm gonna bend the bands back a little bit. What happens if we try to lift it up? Well, the knob came out. Can we do this? Yeah, it looks like we can. I'm not going to take those connectors off. I'm sorry, but you can see that I could just simply take these connectors off and lift it up on all sides. There's nothing else holding it in place. And this one panel would come completely off, revealing, I believe, another panel below, and then a battery. So build quality-wise, for the X5, this is superb because we have nothing that we need to unsolder to get into the watch, to go deeper. All right, that's the X5. How about the X1? Well, let's play with that. Take the back off. Here's the X1. Again, the speaker holes over there, so that's the speaker. So now they're lined up very similar, okay? This actually would need to reverse around here, right? Because of the pins and everything. There, now we're matched. So on the X1, well, there's the battery connector right there. We got a screw here and here. Our connectors are here for charging, the metal plate covering everything. The inside is, of course, your lasers for your pulse readings. This is the SIM card connector. Hello, come on, pop open. There you go. So, you know, same nano size SIM. Yeah, I guess I could unscrew those and probably lift it up. There's looks like a little connector right there for an antenna. Things are a little tighter in here, aren't they? As far as elbow room and overall connectors, the X5 looks a little bit roomier, a little bit easier to manage and work with than the X1, but nonetheless, that looks good build quality. Yeah. What? No. We're doing the X5 and X1. This is the FINOW, FINOW products. What do you mean you want to see the D5? I know the D5 and the X1 are similar, but that's... all right. I know I'm going to get a million comments if I don't do this. All right, that's the X5. That's the X1. Where is it? Yes. Here's the number 1 D5 watch from number 1. What's the difference? Well, the only thing you can see outside is on the back. The back plate here just has SmartWatch, Bluetooth 4.0, and all stainless steel, whereas the one from FINOW has a number on it. See that? Other than that, everything looks pretty much the same, but what about inside? What about the build quality? What are these watches like inside? First of all, this thing popped out. That looks like a little protector that was sitting over the laser diode. Oh, I wonder if one of those was inside here and fell out as well. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to pop these open. Are you open? There we go. Okay, SIM cards are open. Well, interesting. They are different inside somewhat. They're not made exactly the same. Well, are they? There's the little connector up here in the corner. Okay. These look like they're soldered in place, don't they? The antennas up there. How's the soldering look? Okay, everything else looks good. These wires are here. This plate lets you get to the battery. This plate covers the battery connector. So if you needed to open up and take the battery out on the number 1 D5, you have to pop this whole metal bracket out. Whereas this one, you can get to it straight away. You got the screws in the same place. All in all, it looks like it's pretty much the same watch the same build, except for this back metal plate coming further over and covering the battery connector on the number 1 D5. The speaker looks different. This one's like transparent. This one's black. I can't really tell you which would be better. Can you? Well, number 1 D5, FINOW X1. Tight quarters, little complex to get in here. When you compare them with the build quality on the X5, where everything is sockets, and there's a lot of extra elbow room, I tell you, given the fact that it's got that really nice big display, that 400 by 400 pixel, a larger platform to be able to touch the buttons. Of course, it looks kind of huge on your arm compared to the smaller watches, but wow, it's a nice watch. They're all nice watches. Which one do you want? Which one will fit your needs? Think about size first. Everything else being equal, it's pretty much about size. How's it going to fit? How's it going to look? Thank you for watching. More than you ever wanted to know, more than I ever wanted to show you about comparing the number 1 D5, the FINOW X1, and the FINOW X5 watches together. Now you should be able to make a decision. Get that watch on order because you're going to want to play with it, and it's going to take you 3 weeks at least to get it in.